We're recording. Okay, so this is just a very basic focus blur, sorry, not focus blur, focus stack. So we're going to take multiple photographs and at different focus settings, blend them together so that you have more depth of field in your final photograph. So I have two photos here. The one photograph is focused on the aloe in the background. The other photograph is focused on the baby aloes in the foreground. If I hit compare, the C button, sorry, I need to actually choose the right two. The C button in Lightroom, you can see the two together. We'll zoom in, and you can actually see, here's the top of the photograph, the image on the right, we've got in focus, the one on the left, not in focus. But as we scroll down, you can see that the focus changes, and suddenly it's on the left, it's in focus, but the one on the right is not in focus. Okay, technically this should have had another photograph, as you can see it needed more focus in the foreground, but still, we're better off. What we're going to do is select the two photographs, edit in Photoshop, and you're going to say edit as open as layers when this finally comes up. At any rate, we've already got this open in Photoshop as layers. Oops, sorry, that's doing something itself. So once your layers are up in Photoshop, you can see over here, we've got our two Photoshop layers. If I zoom in to this photograph, you can see it's out of focus in the background. If I switch the layer off, you can see it's in focus. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to build an inverse mask. To build an inverse mask, hold down your Alt button and click on Create Layer Mask, or the Japanese flag. It ends up with a black layer mask. Black means that you're seeing to the layer below. So we can see nothing of this top layer, we're only seeing the bottom layer. What you're going to do is get into your photograph, zoom in, and start finding the area where it starts going out of focus, in which case it's over here. You can actually see the grass is in focus here, not over here. With a white brush, so there's our paint layer, we're in the brush over there. With a white brush, we're going to start to erase or paint through to the layer below. And you can actually see how it starts sharpening up. So we're going to basically, here you can see I've just painted it and it's gone out of focus. So we need to paint black ink back. Now you can either click on this little arrow that swaps our swatch layers between black and white, or you can use the shortcut key X. If I hit X, it switches to black. So I can now paint back that little area there. Okay, I'm going to switch back to white by hitting X, and I'm going to start painting in these rocks so that they're nice and sharp again. There you go. Again, black ink. Let's paint some black ink. Back to white and paint on the rock. There you go, painting the rock. You can see the grass gets nice and sharp. Don't worry about going all the way to the bottom. We're basically just building a layer that we can then paint below at another point. There we go, that works. Yeah, that sharpens it up. There we go, perfect, right. Now if we look at our layer mask, hold down Alt, click on your layer mask, you will see that we now have a nice line, basically where we want to have our connection between the two photographs. So now you can just dump white ink. So we just go to Paint Bucket tool, dump white ink underneath, and you might need to clean up the edge with a brush just over there. Ta-da! We now, just with the brush tool. I used the brush tool to paint white ink just over the edge where the connection was. Click back on your photograph over here, zoom back into the area where you were working, which was just above here, and then while your layer mask is selected, just feather it a little bit. Usually about 50 should do fine, or around, in fact, you can actually see it changing as we go. We just want it to be a more natural transition, so around 50, 58 in this situation. And there you go, you now have your focus blend. As with everything else we've done to this point, you can save it and it'll be a layered TIFF inside Lightroom, or you can flatten the image and continue working, or you can just work on it as a layered photograph. In this situation, I'm going to take this one step further. I would like to lighten up my foreground a little bit more. So I'm going to keep this as two layers, go to my adjustment layers, choose curves, and I'm going to brighten up and add contrast to the photograph. Okay. The problem that we're having, obviously, is that the background is going to get too bright. So same thing as we've done in the past, you can actually gradient this out. New technique over here, rather than using a brush or a selection tool, I'm going to go to my paint bucket, click on it, choose gradient tool. Now we're wanting it to be darker over here, so in other words to cut down to the layer below, and we want this area to be white. So I'm just going to drag my gradient tool like so. Oh, wrong direction, sorry. So I'll just reverse the direction, and there we go. There, that's about right. So now what we've done is not only have we lightened up the foreground, and here you can see my mask, but we've also done a focus stack. You've now got a base image from which to work from.